This episode of the Golf Unfiltered podcast is brought to you by WorldwideGolfShops.com. Be sure to go out to WorldwideGolfShops.com for all of your equipment, apparel, and accessory needs. They've even got training aids. They've got all the great stuff from all the brands that you hear on our podcast every week. So once again, that is WorldwideGolfShops.com.
You're listening to the Golf Unfiltered podcast, your source for in-depth interviews with the biggest names, brands, and personalities in golf. Our mission? To keep you informed and help you enjoy the game even more. And now, the owner and host of the Golf Unfiltered podcast, Adam Fonseca.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Golf Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam from GolfUnfiltered.com. Follow us all over social media at Golf Unfiltered. You can send me an email, adam@golfunfiltered.com. And a big hello to all our friends listening at thehackersparadise.com, and of course our friends over at Cleveland, Srixon, and Zexio. How's everyone doing out there, folks? I know it's been pretty crazy out in the world these last few months now that we are in the month of June. And of course there are many very important causes that are going on throughout the world. And I know that you like to listen to this show for a distraction, and today hopefully we can provide that. But over the last couple of weeks, I think you've noticed that in the episodes we've produced, we've touched on at least one of the global epidemics, and that is COVID, of course, the coronavirus. And we've also talked a lot about just how golf has been impacted. When we had Alex DePaulo on, he shared his story about, unfortunately, losing his job during this time. And then last week's guest with Stuart Goldstein, we talked a little bit more about how the industry may be impacted from COVID. Well, today, I wanted to just kind of take a step back and reflect on a few things that the golf industry, or maybe even just the game of golf itself, may have learned from this time with this virus. Obviously a lot of organizations and companies have closed, and now they're slowly reopening. Here in Illinois, golf is once again allowing foursomes and single rider carts. The tee times are now at 10 minutes apiece as opposed to the original 15. And things are beginning to feel a little bit more normal on the golf course. But I believe that there are at least three things that we have learned, that the game of golf has learned during this time, that I think should continue, or at the very least adjust how things used to be. Because we can't go back to slow playing times in terms of pace of play, and a few other items that I'm going to get to here in a second. So, hope you enjoyed this conversation, folks. And before we get into it, just wanted to remind everyone to go out to thehackersparadise.com, of course. You can listen to the rest of the THP podcast network, which includes our friends over at Off Course. Dan and Rob do a great job over there. And, of course, Range Days, one of the more in-depth podcasts that you can listen to for specific pieces of equipment. We'll be right back after a quick word from one of our sponsors. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Ben Hogan Golf Equipment Company. No big hype, no big price, but definitely a big deal. Take advantage of their factory direct model where you cut out the middleman and get the best products shipped to your door direct from the company. They've got a demo program to try out their products before you buy, a trade-up program to get these clubs in your hands even quicker, and special financing where you can split your payment into 4 to make these clubs even more affordable. Go to benhogangolf.com to learn more. All right, everybody, so let's dive into this. 3 things that I believe that the game of golf should have learned, and hopefully did, from this whole experience with the pandemic. The first of which is, I think, something that you've heard us talk about a lot. You've heard me talk about a lot, of course. And it's something that is a very hot topic every single year, not only in the professional ranks, but also with amateur golfers, and that is pace of play. Now, in the introduction to this show, I mentioned that here in Illinois, at least, when everything shut down, we had about 24 hours of golf, despite all other organizations and companies and stores going on lockdown. Unfortunately, way too many people kind of grouped together and didn't take it very seriously, and our governor went ahead and shut golf down for a while. And then shortly thereafter, which seemed like an eternity, if I'm completely honest, we finally opened back up with some pretty strict restrictions. Walking only, twosomes only, tee times were 15 minutes apart. Now, there were also a few courses in Chicago that closed again, but that was for a different reason, I believe. But one of the things that I know golfers, at least myself, I know I can only speak for myself, I was very excited just to get back out on the course. And so me and 3 buddies got together, went and played Ruffled Feathers here in Lamont, Illinois. Obviously we paired up with, one other friend, of course, and we could only go out in twosomes, and we went and played, walked 9 holes. Been a long time since I walked. And that is not a easy course to walk either. But we had a good time. And one of the things that we immediately recognized or immediately just popped out at us was, well, you can't really go into the clubhouse because that was closed. And really, you were only able to drive into the parking lot, get your sticks, walk to the first tee, and go. So we did that, and it was pretty nice, actually. And we get to the first tee, and there was nobody in front of us at all. But the starter that was there said, you know what, you guys, you still got about 5 minutes. You got to wait. Not a problem. Had a couple of opportunities, take a few practice swings, whatever. And then we played. And we had no problem in front of us, no problem behind us. It was a really nice round of golf, or at least 9 holes. And I remember one moment walking, I was playing with, obviously you guys know Matt Hackett that helps out with the website. He was my partner that day, and we were just walking, and I was like, man, I gotta say, this is pretty good. We didn't feel rushed, didn't feel like we had to wait at all, because we didn't. And then after the 9 holes, we played a little bit later in the day. Our other 2 friends who were in the tee time behind us, they pretty much said the same thing. Now, I completely understand that that's not a sustainable system or tee time frequency for golf courses. I know that they want more players. I mean, you can't have 6 players go out, or whatever it is, 8 players go out in an hour. You need more. And luckily now, fast forward to, as I think it was last weekend at the time of this recording, we were allowed now to play in foursomes, and we could use single-player carts. So, of course, we went out again. This time we were able to actually play in a group together. This time we played at one of Cog Hill's courses. Everyone played by the rules, no issues, certainly a lot more golfers. And tee times were 10 minutes apart at this point. There were a couple instances towards the end of the round, I believe, and we played a full 18 holes this time. There were a few instances where it was, we had to wait a little bit. I think it's just the nature of the beast when you have more people on a hole. But even then, it still seemed to be a pretty good pace. We got done in just over 4 hours, which really wasn't so bad for us for that round. And so I know that as the world, as the country, as our state continues to open up a little bit more, we'll probably see more and more restrictions lifted. Quite frankly, I know of a few golf courses around in the area, and they will remain nameless, that have already pretty much done that, allowing foursomes and 2 per cart, whatever. I guess you're always going to have a few people who are defiant. But regardless, it's going to happen, and it's a good thing because we're going to have more people out on the golf course. How are we going to respond to the positive feedback that has been given to courses, I'm sure, because I know I've left it with the ones I've played, on how good the pace of play was. The other thing that we saw a lot of in those rounds of golf that I just mentioned were the marshals. They were actually out doing their job. What a novel concept. Some of you listening to this are probably thinking, what are you talking about? The marshals at my course do that all the time. Well, consider yourselves lucky, because I can tell you that's not a standard across the nation by any means. But they were out there. They were keeping pace of play moving. They were making sure everyone was, abiding by the rules. They weren't being tough guys out there by any means. But, I think everyone, just the presence of them, understood that, hey, we still got to stay apart from one another, all that stuff. So one of the lessons I think that golf can learn from this is let's really continue this experiment with different tee time spacing. Let's also continue to experiment with some of the things that I just mentioned, and I'm going to mention again here in a minute. But I really think that it would be a failure on our part as a game, as an industry, if we go back to overloading tee sheets. Now, I'm sure there are club pros listening to this. I know a few of you already that do, and you've already shared this opinion with me, and I can almost hear you right now. How do you expect courses to maintain budget, to continue, all the costs that are associated with maintaining a course? How do you expect that to happen if we don't get more golfers on the course? I don't have the answer for you. I don't. But what I do know is that pace of play is a huge customer satisfier or dissatisfier, depending on your preference. And I know that pace of play is entirely relative. There was a thread on thehackersparadise.com talking about this too. The fact is, though, is that we can't go back to, I think one of the courses in the area I saw was like 7-minute tee times, 6-minute tee times. That's ridiculous. We can't go back to the way that things were in regard to the number of people we try to push out on the course. We can't. So that kind of goes into the second thing, and I already mentioned it, but the second thing that we definitely learned was the experiment regarding single player carts, single rider carts. Now I know that this is, it's not that new. I've played golf, solo using a cart myself many times before. All of us have, listening to this. But for some reason there was always this, I don't know, maybe it was because of, you don't want to mess up the course, or you want to limit the risk of somebody, driving on a green or something. I don't know. But there was always this taboo about having more than 2 golf carts in a foursome. Believe it or not, that's also not a novel concept. I know a lot of private clubs, the one I used to work at growing up, yeah, we'd let a few fivesomes go out. No big deal. There'd be more than 2 carts out there. Single rider carts, even as many as 4 in a group, it's not a problem. It feels a little weird. Almost feels like you're in a cavalry. You're just kind of, riding up like a posse. I don't know, like the Magnificent Seven or whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone's able to, do their own thing. And I think that's really why, to go back to the first lesson that we learned regarding pace of play, we played pretty quick walking. All you do is just go straight to your ball, and that's all you're responsible for. The same thing is just faster with single rider carts. And so I really implore a lot of courses, all the courses that at least I come in touch with, to really allow that. Why do we have to have 2 players to a cart? Now, I also understand that not all courses have a golf cart fleet big enough to meet the demand of everybody who wants to ride. I get it. And I'm sure many courses during this time, at least temporarily, had to rent more, and that comes at an added cost. But if you can get more players out there while maintaining appropriately spaced tee times, and they can get their rounds done faster, maybe we can have a quicker turnaround with those carts. I don't know, just saying. I think this was a very interesting experiment, and I thought it worked really well. Now, that leads, of course, to the third thing that I think we all learned during this time. There's so many things out on a golf course that you touch just without thinking about it. I know that sounds weird, but you think about the flag sticks, you think about the rakes and bunkers, you think about the golf ball, the golf tees just laying around. If you walk up to a par 3, this is something that I'm notorious for doing, and I know a lot of the guys in my normal group do the same. You just try to find a tee that's laying around because you don't want to break one of yours. And there are a number of other just random objects out there that you just naturally, pick up, throw to the side if it's in your way or whatever. And at least for me, I don't know if it was just my nervous nature or whatever. I was really hyper aware of that playing golf. And I've played golf probably 5 or 6 times during the pandemic months. It was just really an odd thing to just be aware of. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I know even like just walking through the street, my wife and I will go for walks because I'm working from home. We'll go for walks during lunchtime and we'll just go ahead and, just say, I don't like being around people right now. It feels weird. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really liked playing golf these last few times, even more so than normal, because it's like you're in your own little protective bubble. And I heard that analogy was told to me by another friend, Bill Bush, who some of you who've watched our live streams know. He said something very similar. But even then, it was still like, wow, I can't touch that flag stick. They're telling me I can't. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm not supposed to. There's this weird pool noodle thing in the hole now, or the hole's upside down. There's just a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of stuff. Even stepping up to the first tee, looking for the bucket of water to wet my towel, for courses that have that. There's no ball washers anywhere for courses that don't have the bucket of water, stuff like that. So all of that to say, the third thing that at least I learned is that we don't need a lot of that stuff in order to enjoy this game. I know the flag stick debate, that was really hot and heavy a couple years ago, filtered over into this year, of course, but then all of a sudden it's like, nope, you got to putt with the flag stick in no matter what. Don't even touch it. I tried it before. I was indifferent. A few friends of mine really don't like having the flag stick in. But I think ultimately, and we've talked about this as a group, we don't mind it anymore. It's really not that big a deal. Sure, there are some instances where the flag stick's blowing and, you have the flag stick moves in the hole. One side's a little bit wider than the other. That's easily managed. It's not a big deal. I mean, if the handicap governing bodies or whatever, they're going to allow you to post scores even with these cup restrictions or, these adjustments that they've made, these compromises, I guess, then who cares? If the ball hits the flag stick and you think it was going to fall anyway, then just count it. It's not a big deal. Pick it up and let's go. Rakes and bunkers is another thing. Truth be told, and I don't think this is going to be a huge confession, but I have been known to just kind of, fix my sand marks or my ball marks in a bunker with my club, and it's perfectly fine. It's just as good as a rake. I know that some of you are hearing that and you're probably going to let me have it, but yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. And then, with the ball washers and everything else, you just don't need that stuff. You really don't. You really don't. And so I am in favor of doing away with all of those things. Leave the flag stick in. Who cares? That's probably the lesser of any of those evils. So, pace of play, single rider golf carts, and then just doing away with all the ancillary objects that are out there on a golf course. I think those are 3 relatively easy, of course, some easier than others, lessons that we can maintain, adjustments that we can continue, even after COVID is apparently no longer a thing. Let me tell you what. This past weekend was 100% the time when everyone just kind of stopped caring about the pandemic. Let me tell you. I mean, it's just, walking around, it is so interesting how this is all playing out. And I know that there's other things going on too. But as far as, related to the game that we love, it's nice to get out. It's nice to be out with people you like, playing a game we all enjoy, and just forgetting about stress for a little bit. Believe it or not, I still believe golf is a stress reliever, even though it makes me so damn mad sometimes. A fourth thing, maybe an added bonus thing that I continue to think about is, I've not stepped into a pro shop in months, and I know that that's where a lot of courses, that's a big revenue generator. Probably not as big as, tee times or even the driving range and lessons and what have you, but you got to sell merchandise. I think that's going to change. I really do. Last week when Stuart Goldstein was on, we talked about that a little bit, and I know courses in my area, they're finding ways to find alternative methods, I guess, to push products onto people, and they have to. That's a good thing. I was just at the range today over at Ruffled, and right there on the first tee, you walk right up, they got dozens of golf balls, they got a couple shirts on racks, they got a couple other, accessories that you can purchase, all right there on your way. I think it's a great idea. Probably not ideal. It's probably a huge pain to wheel all that stuff out onto a table and set it up, but still, people are getting creative, and you have to be. We all have to be. I don't think it's too far-fetched to assume, at least in some areas, maybe some municipal courses, executive courses, smaller ones, that pro shops are going to dwindle. Just the presence of them. Online tee time booking, very convenient. I prefer it. I love the fact that I could just book online, park in the parking lot, get out of my car, go to the first tee. I'm not one that likes to warm up too much before a round. I really don't care. Maybe roll a few putts. I've got a friend that told me that there's at least a course in Chicago, pretty well-known course. They're considering doing away with their pro shop completely. I don't want to mention the name right now because I'm not sure if it's something I'm supposed to be saying, but we just had a frank conversation about it, and he said, "Yeah, we're thinking about it. There's no reason to have it. It actually costs us more to keep it open." They don't have a lot of merchandise in there, but still. I think businesses are going to have to think differently, and they're going to just respond differently. Curbside service is a big deal. Can you do that in a golf pro shop? I don't know. I bet there's a way to do it. So you're listening to this, and I appreciate you tuning in. Let me know your thoughts. Send me an email, adam@golfunfiltered.com. You can find us all over social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, @golfunfiltered. Let me know your thoughts. What are some of the things that you, pros and cons, that you experienced playing golf during these last few months? I know some states are different than others. I know some have remained open with very little restrictions. Others have had even more restrictions than we did at Illinois. But not everything was negative about it. What are some of the things that you enjoyed about it? Because I know I've seen your tweets, folks. I've seen the messages that you've sent me. You've said, "Yeah, I kind of liked it too." Let me know. Let us know. We'd like to hear more about it. And once again, folks, I just hope everyone's staying safe out there. I know that I've, I get myself into some trouble sometimes on social, and you guys have probably seen me take a couple steps away from golf on my feed recently. But you know what? It's important, and I think you guys know that, and I know that many of you have reached out with your support of that, and I'm not going to stop doing it. I'm not. It's just, you guys know me by now. That's not what I do. I tend to I don't tend to stay in my lane very well. You can go places that do that. You can go find them. You probably already do. We don't do that here. So I appreciate your understanding and support about it. It's not about us, though. The stuff that we talk about when it's not golf related, it's about something bigger. So, I don't want to get into, politics or anything else that's going on right now, but end of the day, just be kind to one another. You don't have to agree with everything that the other person says. But for crying out loud, just be kind. That's all you have to do. And if you don't want to be with that person, then just smile and turn away. That's stuff that we learned when we were growing up. At least some of us did. I hope we all did. Times like these, it helps us remember that, hey, maybe that meant something. Maybe that was good advice. I wish the best for all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep in mind, hit us up. Email, social, let us know your thoughts on, our thoughts regarding the things that I believe we learned in golf during this time. I'd love to hear yours as well. We'll be back again next week, folks. Thanks for tuning in.